Yeah, it's the guys that respectable. Yeah. Sure.
Wonder what we should do next month. Edition of Uncle Bob's Cigar Corner. Come on in, everybody. Grab a seat if you can find one. We'll get more if you can't. And welcome. We're going to be talking about, believe it or not, the thing that piques everybody's cigar libido at the beginning of the year, which is the best of lists. Anyone and everybody that smokes cigars wants to know what the best cigars were last year. And rather than run down any specific list, and I'll tell you what's against the rules tonight. Don't anybody ask me what the best cigar of the year was, because I don't want to go there. I saw 54 different lists. I saw over 500 different cigars, and everybody thought it was their best of cigar. What we're going to talk about tonight is how these lists are made, how many of them there are there, and what the nature of those lists can really show you about cigars. So, we're also live streaming tonight, Thanks to Jason, appreciate it. And we're here at the Thunderbird. Thanks to Bryce. Thank you, Bryce. And I want to ask in advance, because I always forget later, that if you're live streaming or if you're watching this on YouTube, please click subscribe, not because we're trying to get ahead of the game or anything, but just so we know how many people we got out there that are watching us. And click like. If you click subscribe, then every month when we come out with these, you'll be able to see what's coming up. And there's other stuff coming. We've got little short 20-minute clips of Uncle Bob's in a closed environment. We've got the slide decks that we're going to be putting up, and we've got hundreds of cigars that we've reviewed that we're going to be putting on accessible files for everybody. So thanks for coming in, thanks for watching, and appreciate everybody that helped put this together. So the best cigar lists of the year are, let's go to that first slide deck. There we go. Oh, that's not this month. Hang on. We're back in January. We'll be right with you. But the best cigar list, like I said, there's over 50 of them. And some of the more notable ones come from magazines. For instance, Cigar Aficionado, CA, the top 25 list. Everybody wants to know what those are. About 2/3 of the top Cigar Aficionado lists, cigars, are right in the Thunderbird cigar shop. And interestingly enough, this year, out of 25 cigars, 15 of those cigars were actually made in Nicaragua. So that's a very unusual thing. And this is where cigar lists get kind of interesting. You've seen Cigar Aficionado come up with lists year after year after year in their magazine. Some years they have a lot of Cuban cigars. Some years they don't have a lot of Cuban cigars. And I've noticed, and this is a kind of a side thing, that you look at these lists and you just think what's best and what's not. But on those years when a lot of Cuban cigars were on the best of list and highest rated by Cigar Aficionado, those were good crop years for Cuba. Those were years when they had a lot of good tobacco to get and process into cigars and get out into the marketplace, and those cigars tasted better and smoked better. The last real peak that I remember was 2017. So if you're ever out looking around for Cubans and you see a 2017 Cuban, it's probably a lot better than a 2014 Cuban cigar, which was not so hot. Or 2018 was kind of mediocre. There's about middle of the road in 2019. Not real high, not real low. Guess what? There was a drought last year in Cuba. So when you look at these lists, if you peel back a layer or two of the onion, you kind of see things that you didn't realize were there underneath it all. Another thing about, oh good, you got the right, yay Jason, all right. Another thing about not just the Cigar Aficionado list, but a lot of the magazine lists, is they use double-blind taste testing all year long. Cigar Aficionado, I think, is over 700 or 800, tons and tons of cigars. They go out and blindly purchase in cigar stores, much like a food critic sneaks into a restaurant and sees if they can get a bad waiter or a bad dish of food. The cigar people go into the cigar stores and just pick cigars off the shelf. They take the labels off of them and they give them to their testers blind, so the testers have no idea what they're doing. Then the best ratings throughout the year go back through the same mill again, and they're given to the testers again blind, so they have to pass muster twice without anyone ever knowing what it is. Here's the thing you got to realize about the magazine list or any of the best of lists. If they never bought the cigar, it didn't make the list. So the real key is, what did they go out and buy? And if it wasn't readily available, or if it wasn't available on the East Coast or the West Coast or America or Cuba or something like that, you're not going to know about it. So a lot of the cigar industry has given birth to little tiny boutique shops and small shops that may just be really hot in a particular region. We have some that are, Sinistro comes to mind. It's really hot in the West, but I don't know that people know much about Sinistro back in Boston or New York. And there's some huge, really good boutique companies in the East Coast, particularly Florida. Miami's a hotbed of cigars, still is. They still make cigars there, that we never see the light of day out here. So if we don't know about it, if somebody doesn't test it and pick it up, it can't be on the best of list. So as a cigar geek, if you keep looking out for the off-the-wall cigars and the thing that interests you, instead of smoking the best of each time or the one that you know what it tastes like, you're going to have a lot more fun with the hobby. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with these lists. Now, I can tell you, like from the slide deck, we've got Cigar Aficionado, double-blind taste test. But if they never went to the store and bought it, they never tested it, they're not going to share with you anything. There's a lot of talk like, oh, it's because they advertise. The advertisement comes after they make Cigar of the Year, not before. So they will pick out an unknown cigar in a store and test it out. It doesn't matter whether it's being advertised with them or not. What matters is that they picked it up in the first place. Another magazine that does a magnificent job, which I really love, because it's a little more cigar-centric even than Cigar Aficionado, and that's Cigar Journal. It's published out of Germany. They have two lists. They review cigars, but they're cigar reviewers. None of them work for a Cigar Journal. They're tobacco shop owners. They're people in the business. They're cigar aficionados all over the world. There's about 54, 58 of them. And they're given cigars in the mail blindly, and they have to test them and fill out these. They don't even, some of them don't even like doing it because the forms they got to fill out when they test them are all kinds of time-consuming stuff that's difficult to do. Then Cigar Journal just takes what they reviewed all year and double reviews them, and that makes theirs top of the list. But they have two lists. They also have the Cigar Journal Awards trophies. Those trophies come from the people that subscribe to the magazine, like me, or you, or anybody. Each year, as a Cigar Journal subscriber, I get a ballot in the mail, and I can nominate who I want to be the best Nicaraguan cigar, the best factory. It's not like just top 25. It's best cigars in Nicaragua, best factory in Nicaragua, best entrepreneur, best product. If you all know the Bovita product, the little bags that you use, that actually made the Cigar Journal Trophy of the Year award this year. Last year, the little perfect draw poke thing that Bryce and I know all about because we've saved hundreds of dollars worth of cigars with it, that made Product of the Year last year. That didn't come from advertising on the magazine. That came from subscribers sending in their ballots saying, this is my favorite product. Users like you and I are the ones that determine what the Cigar Journal Awards are. So that aspect, as well as the top 25, are two good fun things to look at in the Cigar Journal. Cigar Snob's and also another magazine. And as I'm saying this, what I really should do is pass around some of these things. Here are Cigar Journal's top 25 cigars that we actually sell here in the Thunderbird. And you guys can peruse those as you look. Here's Cigar Aficionado's top 25 cigars that we actually sell here in the Thunderbird, if you really want to know what they are. And here is, actually here's the magazine they came out of, so more than one person can see. And here's the Cigar Journal, which has the Cigar Journal Trophy Awards in it. And my favorite magazine, Cigar Snob. It's always got a centerfold. I love this magazine. Remember I was talking about Cigar Libido? I think this has something to do with it. Anyways, they just now this week published the top 25 cigars, and they got a little cardboard in the middle of it that shows what the top 25 cigars are. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I really want to share something with you. Every one of these top 25 lists is different. A top 25 list is extremely subjective. subjective. Yeah, it's not definitive. It's not as easy as watching the Super Bowl and knowing which referee's being paid by which team. Well, I didn't say that. But the art of enjoying a good cigar is up to every single person. The best you can do with these lists is see if this cigar is in your wheelhouse. Is it a lighter cigar? Is it a dark, heavy cigar? Is it a strong cigar? How much nicotine does it have in it? And then kind of customize what you think is the best to what your particular tastes are, and then compare it to other cigars. What you think is best is totally different than what anyone else in the room thinks is best, and these best of lists are a good way to demonstrate that. We've also had one that come to mind that I see on the internet all the time, Stogie Guide, Cigar Dojo. I really like Blind Man's Puff, and I really like, because these people are really credible, and they're very, very knowledgeable, is Half Wheel. Half Wheel will actually put together a list of lists, which reminds me, Skip Martin Skip Martin is the owner, co-owner of Roma Craft cigars. He makes the Roma Craft, Neanderthal, Cro-Magnon. They're really good cigars. We don't have them here, just saying. It's a boutique place, it's hard to get, and he always sells every cigar he makes. But Skip kind of inspired me because he put together a list of lists, and it was all to his personal taste, what he wanted. And he crunched all the lists and made a list of lists that looked like a lot of math to me, but it was well done. Half Wheel also has a list of lists and their own top, because they review cigars every month. I mentioned Cigar Coop. Oh, and one of my favorites, Cigar Vixen. This young lady named Delicia, who every week puts up a quick YouTube post, 5 or 6 minutes, and says, here's my top 5 cigars of the week. And here's the 5 cigars. Some weeks it's real strong, heavy cigars. Some weeks it's expensive cigars. Some weeks it's real inexpensive cigars or lighter cigars, or what goes good with a cup of coffee, or what goes good with scotch. So each week she does that. And at the end of the year, she comes up with the top 5 cigars of the year. Totally, completely subjective. Last year, it was the High Claire Castle, which is a Foundation cigar, and the blender owner of Foundation Cigar is Nick Melillo. I personally think she's in love with Nick Melillo, and everything he makes she thinks is super, but that's another story. The cigar that she picked this year is a cigar that I kept seeing popping up, and we've got all of them. And it's made by Joya de Nicaragua, in the shadow of Drew Estates, actually. And it's called, and this is Cigar Vixen, it's called the Cinco de Cada. Now, to give you a little idea, 5 years ago, Joya de Nicaragua made a really bold, fantastic cigar called Cuatro Cinco. Nobody ever heard of Joya de Nicaragua, and then this cigar pops up, and it got a lot of notice. 5 years later, they made the Cinco Decadas, which stands for the 5 decades, and it made the top list for Delicia's list, and she likes strong, robust, well-made cigars. I gotta tell you, we've got both of them, but beyond that, there's another cigar that just creeped up in some of these lists, and Joya de Nicaragua claims this to be the third leg of a stool, if you will, with the Cuatro Cinco, the Cinco Decadas, and then what they just came out with is called the Numero Uno. And it's a light Connecticut shade that reminds me a lot of the High Claire Castle, which was last year's Cigar of the Year for the Cigar Vixen. So you get to see some links and things that come together. Excellence breeds excellence. But there's a lot of interesting little rabbit holes you can go down. By the way, we've got the Numero Uno in our shop. We've got the Cinco Decadas. I think we still have some Cuatro Cincos around. I'm not sure. But those kind of lists are interesting. And like I said, there's so many of them. I was trying to put some math together, and I came up with, good grief, it was huge. I don't see, oh yeah. I actually saw 54 different best of lists from 5 to 25 cigars. And I counted 514 cigars on this list. I can't smoke. I don't think I can get them all smoked if I wanted to. So that gives you an idea how crazy it's. Half Wheel, by the way, made the Plasencia Alma de Fuego #1, which I think one of the big lists. It was either #1, 2, or 3, or way up there. But what I really want to recognize and get to on this is on the next slide. And that is way back in 1992. Keep in mind that Cigar Aficionado didn't start this little game until 2004. Yeah, 2004. Oh, 2004. But in 1992, 12 years earlier, a little cigar shop, not unlike the Thunderbird, in New Hampshire called Two Guys Cigar Shop, started their Cigar of the Year. And here's what they used for rules to get into it. It had to be a new cigar that year. Well, duh. Although Cigar Aficionado might have a 10-year-old Padron or 20-year-old Padron that's way up in the Cigar of the Year this year, it's been around for 20 years. So, you know, you're not going to give Gone with the Wind an Academy Award this year. It wasn't made this year. So the two guys started out with the rules. It had to be a new cigar that year. It had to be readily available. It couldn't be limited release. How many of us have actually picked up and smoked a limited release lately? Actually, the Numero Uno is a limited release. Half the stuff out there is a limited release. I think they're just teasing us. But the point is, if it's not readily available, they're not going to grant it Cigar of the Year because it's not something everybody can enjoy. The third really big rule is that they based their Cigar of the Year on what their customers actually bought, and not the first buy. They narrowed their cigars down. They usually have 8 contenders. I don't know if they had them in '92, but now they have 8 contenders. And what they do after they list the contenders in September or so, they see who buys those cigars, but not the first one. They only track who buys the second in the box, and on and on and on. And the customers that come back the second and the third and the fourth time to buy that same cigar, that's the cigar that wins Cigar of the Year. I kind of like that, because I'll smoke a lot of cigars. As a tobacconist at the Thunderbird, I like to tell customers, I smoke the lousy cigars so you don't have to. Right? Bryce is there. Yeah. So does Bryce.
Take one for the team.
Yeah. So the true measure of a good cigar isn't what some cigar snob got that I tasted banana cream pie or tangerine. By the way, on 2 of those ricochets from La Barba, I got apricot 2 times. I'm just saying, it's really there.
Were you eating apricots at the time?
No, I don't think so. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, what really counts is what the cigar smoker really enjoys and what they really like. So the 2 guys, which based it on sales and repeat sales, and it must be readily available and it can't be a limited edition. They came up with actually their cigar this year was the Nestor Miranda Special Edition, which we've got in our shop. It's readily available. It's not too strong because oddly enough, as much as these guys up in New Hampshire, love this cigar, they can't handle the heavy stuff. I don't know if you know, but David Garofalo is a real big cigar geek, but he's also a cigar wuss because he can't handle the strong stuff. Now they do have a guy named Barry Stein. Sorry, Barry, Barry can smoke anything. As a matter of fact, he's blended some cigars that'll kick you on your butt. But this is the cigar this year that they gave. I wonder if that's going to show up.
Yeah, put your hand behind it.
So, this is the Nestor Miranda Special Edition. He also blended just right at the same month as this is a Don Lino Africa, which is also an excellent cigar. Totally different taste. The Don Lino Africa is like if you went and used Cameroon on steroids, you get the Don Lino. This is not so Cameroonish. I don't know if it has Cameroon in it. And my friend Jason happens to have one right here. The Cigar of the Year from the Two Guys Cigar Shop. So that's kind of the nature of how this stuff all comes together.
I'll just care if I say something.
Yeah, please do.
So, let me get here so they can see me here. So one of the things I'm going to be dabbling with in the shop is we have those little placards that tells you if something's new in the shop. What we failed to do is we've failed to tell you what's rare in the shop. And so the next bit of signs that you're going to see in the shop are going to be those signs that say rare on it. That means it's a one-off or it's hard for me to get. You know, I've got lots of cigars in there that are more difficult than you think to get your hands on, and a lot of times we just walk right past them. So I'm going to put signs up to tip you guys off, because the thing that stinks most is whenever you come to me 2 months down the road and you go, hey, do you have this cigar? And I say, I had it months ago, nobody would touch it, and finally somebody saw it and gobbled them all up. I want to give you guys the opportunity to have those rare cigars. So I'll have those up. And if anytime you come into the shop and you want to know what's rare, come find me. I'll let you know. Sometimes I don't even have it on the floor yet. I can just take you back and show you if it's going to come out, and I can go ahead and sell it to you then or there. So just be aware that it's probably going to be blue, the sign. So just be aware of that, okay?
Is that sign going to be on the fugly that you made me smoke the other night?
Darn right it will.
Well, it's the fugly, and it was delicious. I loved it, but oh, it was a strong cigar, and it was ugly. But we run into stuff. Our house cigar, you can't get anywhere else on the planet. It's magnificent.
That's right. Yeah. Highly sought after too, believe it or not.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Bryce. I appreciate it. So, as you look at all these different Cigar of the Year lists, keep in mind that it basically comes down to what we enjoy and what we buy. And if you want to try the best cigar of the year, by all means, give it a try. I know my curiosity is always piqued. Which, by the way, the Cigar of the Year for Cigar Aficionado was an aging room Nicaraguan that's been sitting on our shelves for years. It's a less than $10 day-to-day cigar. It's great. It's okay.
Oddly enough, I smoked it all year round. I kept telling everybody I'm a big aging room guy. And everyone's like, and then it got Cigar of the Year and everybody wants it.
But that brings me to another point that I don't think people realize. The aging room cigar is very affordable. It's readily available. We're still going nuts over the Andalusian Bull, which, if you can believe it or not, was 2017. Not 1 year ago, but 2 years ago, and people are still paying premium prices to get their hands on. Not a limited production, just one that LFD couldn't make enough of, those Andalusian Bulls. And it's a pricey cigar. The average cost of the top 25 cigars in Cigar Aficionado list has actually gone down over the last 5 years. So where 5 years ago it might have been a Padron, or I think 10 years ago it was a Cuban you couldn't even get your hands on. Yeah.
Why do you suppose that is, Bob?
I think they're trying to be more consumer-centric and less snobby. I mean, it sounds so cool to take an unobtainium $20 stick that was only made, you know, on the thighs of a virgin maiden in Nicaragua and say that's the Cigar of the Year. But how much of that is hype? What I'm getting at is I think it's less hype. They're getting more attention and less hype, less snobbery, less high-end sophistication, and more right in the gut level of us, cigar smokers. You know, we're not hoity-toity, we're not fancy, just give us a good cigar, shut up and let me enjoy it. And so the price is coming down.
They create these lists, and if you keep creating ones where people can't attain what you're writing about, they're going to lose interest, right? You keep writing about all these Cubans and this and that, people are like, great, I'll never have it. I'm not interested, you know. But if you write about things where you can go down to your local brick and mortar or whatever and go grab that and test it against what they're saying, people are interested. So they want to get people interested in things they can attain. Now they're still throwing a few in there that are kind of unattainable, some Cubans here and there, but they're not doing it nearly like he said they used to do a lot. So they've wised up.
Yeah, Jason.
Scott suggests that the bull is limited due to the rare cigar mold that it's in.
But Scott, they got the mold. That is good point, Scott. The Andalusian bull is named the Andalusian bull because Lito Gomez was on vacation or working in Spain in the Andalusia area, and he came across this ancient old antique mold. Mold being a wooden form that's used to shape the cigars. He thought it was unique. Remember, this is the guy that created the chisel and patented it and has some strange cigar shapes. So he bought it and grabbed it and probably duplicated it, but he used that shape of mold to create the Andalusian bull. It's a uniquely shaped cigar. And it did come out of Andalusia, and I think it was rumored that it was like 1800, late 1880, 1890 time frame. Thanks for that, Scott. And so there's some of the mystique. There's some of the, ooh, I gotta have that type of thing. It's a unique, different cigar. Ooh, do I have $17 to pay for a 2-hour cigar or less? Or should I get that $5 foundation cigar that I really love? Those are the questions. And while, to answer your question, the price of cigars has gone up embarrassingly. I hate that it's getting so, you used to be able to get a good $5 cigar. Now you can get a good $10 cigar. What's wrong with that picture? What happened here? But in spite of the fact that the price is ramping up and the price of production, the quality of tobacco is higher than it's ever been, the average price of the top of the list and best of the best is lower than some of the further down sticks that may cost $20, but they didn't make the top of the list. This is a day-to-day cigar that made the top of this list. And we can all enjoy it without breaking the bank. I kind of like that. I think if that's a trend, I want to see it continue. Because it's all about accessibility. Oh, Bryce got us some old molds.
Yeah, if you want to see what it's kind of what they're talking about with those molds.
Well, let me show the camera.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's cigars in this, just so you know.
This is a mold, and it's got cigars in it. Whoa. This was the cigar of the year in 1904, I believe. Where'd you get
That's the year you graduated from college, right?
Yeah. Oh, I did tell you I graduated from college, didn't I? Yeah, that's right, I did. Yeah, sure I did. So there you go. Wow, this is impressive. And this is what it is a wooden form that when they roll the cigars and they put them in these forms and then they squeeze. We also have a press where they take a whole stack of these molds and they screw the press down on them and squeeze them. So box press cigars, probably a square mold. Ta-da! And the Andalusian is a strange shape because the mold that they use to make it is a strange shape. And this is kind of a nice piece of history, so try not to drop it or anything, but that's what a cigar mold looks like.
Sorry, guys. Sorry about your foot, sir.
Scott asks, is the limited edition fad contributing to the increase in prices?
I think it's a marketing ploy. And this is just a knee-jerk quick answer. But I think it's more of a marketing ploy that's self-defeating. Because if it's a limited edition and you sell it all out, what's Act 2? What do you do next time? Wouldn't it be better if you just made a lot more of your best cigars? Maybe it's not as exciting. And a limited edition is like pressing that nitrous button on your little 4-cylinder Ford Mustang and hoping it's going to beat that great big Corvette, you know. It might for a second. Bryce.
I think a lot of it actually has to do with the fact that right now we have a lot of expendable income, to be honest with you. When these countries are selling us cigars, they're not dumb to the fact that we have expendable income. it's not abnormal when our economy's doing this that cigar prices go along with it, and so they kind of flatline at the same time. They kind of drop at the same time. The lowest prices I ever saw for a lot of cigars in my lifetime was right around 2008, which just happened to coincide with our economy. A lot of it has to do with that. A lot of the special editions that they're doing right now is actually due to the fact that the cigar industry is thriving in such a way that they're able to kind of do these off-key things here and there with a lot of the stock that they would have had to compile into their larger brands. But now they're able to actually kind of siphon them off into more special things and do some cooler things. The price is going up. It contributes to a lot of things. I mean, because we're in a boom in cigars, we've got a lot of innovative things happening. Those aren't cheap to do. It takes different subcategories of labor to do those certain things. A lot of, when we talk about these presses also, you also have to remember that the rollers, they're at different levels, right? So you have some very entry-level cigar rollers, and then you've got your like level 10s that make some real pieces of art. That's where like the Andalusian Bull and everything, those are not easy cigars to roll in that shape in a consistent manner. You might be able to do it in a one-off and hey, try that out, but to do them that uniform, it takes time and a lot of patience and some really good rollers also. So that has a lot to do with the prices.
On the other end of the spectrum, there's some excellent cigar companies that are missing out on a certain part of the market. What comes to mind, the Arroyas, Christian Arroyo with Asylum Cigars makes a fabulous, very popular, very entry-level price cigar that's really good. But you know what they don't make? They don't have any high-end special celebratory cigars. And they've blended lots of varieties and lots of stuff, and they've responded to the market with the various blends. They've done a real great job of making good cigars. So, all of a sudden, out comes this Asylum 7. Well, if people remember Christian Arroyo, he blended Camachos when the Camacho Liberty and the Camacho Diploma were world famous. They were so great out of Honduras, where nobody had anything, that Davidoff bought the company. So the Arroyos just sort of faded into the background. Well, they've worked their way back. Christian Arroyo's got Asylum cigars, and they're very, very good. And his brother and his dad has JRE Cigars, which makes the Aladino, which is one of my favorite Connecticut's. They make magnificent cigars. So they actually have cigar farms in Danlí. They got a factory in Honduras. They got the original soil where they made the original Camachos. And they have the seeds of the original Corojo. And there's a tale about Corojo seed. Corojo seed used to be a very precious seed out of Cuba. And it was so riddled with mold disease and difficult to grow and low yield that they abandoned it and they didn't grow it anymore. The Arroyos kept those seeds, and they used that original Corojo seed from Cuba, and they planted in the soil in Honduras, and they make the Asylums. They made the Camacho cigars. They make the Aladino cigars, which are really great, and they're all like under $10. So their problem was, how do you get to the people that want to have, like, I'm retiring, or it's my birthday, or it's a wedding, or I want to have a top-notch cigar. They don't have any, like, Cadillac cigars to be their vision of the cigar company. So they made this Asylum 7, and they put it in a box coffin, and they finished it up real nice. It's a beautiful cigar. They made it in 2 different sizes, and it's an experiment that's really glorious. And it's pretty much the same blend as the original Camacho Diploma, with the same tobacco grown on the same farms and blended by the same brothers. It's expensive. It's hard to get. It looks fantastic at a party. And we've got it. So there's an example of, some people overdo that part of it. That was actually the missing piece of the puzzle for Asylum Cigars, and they were able to pull that together when they thought back about their history and all the tradition and the great stuff. So there's an example of a special cigar that does cost a lot really being worth it. And a lot of the other companies have too many of those and not enough of the regular blend. It's forgettable. So yeah, it comes and goes in waves, and it changes. So in conclusion, I would say go out and look at the list, enjoy the list, but don't just look at what's number 1 and what's number 2. That's fun to do, but peel back a couple of layers and say, gee, you know, well, how many of these are Nicaragua? How many of these are out of Honduras? And you know, these days I really like Honduran wrapper and Honduran filler because I can't handle the strong of cigars I used to. And these feel more balanced and less full of nicotine than some of the strong Nicaraguans. And boy, I love the strong Nicaraguans. But if I have 1 or 2 a week, I'm doing good because they just kicked my butt. I can't handle that anymore. So look at the list, look on the internet, compare things, go to your local brick and mortar, which we are, and see what's highlighted. Like Bryce says, Bryce is doing a magnificent job. He put these, those little books you see that show what cigars, it's a whole page on each cigar. That's all Bryce's work, so yeah, thank you for doing that. And we'll have more. What we like to do is have you come in and see things that are easy to identify and make a better decision and a fun decision, change up stuff and try different things. So that's my take this year. I went back, this is the first Uncle Bob's Cigar Corner where I actually, it's been over 2 years now, and I never repeated a topic. Every month was a new topic. I did this topic in January 2019, and what we talked about, January 2019, whoa, was that a year ago? Holy crap. So what we talked about a year ago is what was this cigar and that cigar and what were on the top of the list. I didn't want to go there again, so hopefully the thought that we're just looking not at what's on the list, but how they come together, and maybe somebody like Cigar Vixen just has a top 5, or Cigar Coop or Cigar Dojo who show what they like to smoke, or the Two Guys Cigar Shop in New Hampshire, for crying out loud, and see what they smoke. They're all good cigars. Some of them you're going to really like, some of them you're not going to like, some of them you're going to be able to afford, some of them don't seem worth the money. But this only happens in January, February each year. This will all fade by April or May. And we'll be just down to saying, hey, what's new? You got any new cigars? You got any special editions? Yeah, Jason.
Scott asks you to mention anything about CA's annual budget list.
Oh, magnificent. And that's in the magazine I'm passing around. They also have, I think it's under $6 cigar list. And they show what they were rated.
Project 40.
The Project 40's on there, which is a great cigar from Alec Bradley, which we've got. The little Connecticut from the Charter Oak, that's a $5 cigar. And it's by Nick Melillo. It's a magnificent cigar.
It's only $6 or something like that.
Well, yeah, the 6x60, $6. So, thanks, Scott. Thanks for mentioning it. There are lists of affordable cigars, especially on Cigar Aficionado. They do a real good job of it because they show the prices and their MSRP, so they're pretty across the board prices. And be sure and look at the rating. If it's down like 87 or 88, their rating system goes up to 100. And if it's below 90, that's when I kind of think, you know, what's wrong? Why didn't it hit 90? If it's above 90, I want to try that. So you'll see a lot of budget cigars that are rated 90 or higher in the Cigar Aficionado list. Yeah, thanks for that, Scott. Anything, did Scott have anything else in it? I think what I'm going to go to next. Oh, yeah, we do have some interesting side notes. Oh, can you, on the live stream, can you move my, can you just show the slide? Oh, good, okay. Like I said earlier, 15 of the top 25 sticks are from Nicaragua. You kind of notice when there's more Cubans in there, they're having a good year. Just make a mental note of that, and if you ever run across a Cuban, try and get one from that year. The average cost is trending down, every list is different, and keep this in mind, they can't rate what they don't smoke. So if they didn't get it, they didn't pick it up, and they didn't try it, they can't rate it. But what I really want to show you is, God bless you, Scott. Scott showed a map, or a flag, really, of Nicaragua, because Nicaragua is a hotbed for cigars right now, although I think Honduras is really growing. If you look at that flag, that's a map of Nicaragua. And different regions in Nicaragua, and you've heard these names before. Jalapa is the sweet, sandy soil region in the valley of Nicaragua. That's where if you see Jalapa blend in a Nicaraguan cigar, it's sweeter. It's nice and mellow and sweet. Esteli is on volcanic soil, and it's stronger and peppery. Condega is also very peppery and volcanic strong. But Omnatepe, this is the coolest thing. Omnatepe is the strongest tobacco variety that's grown in Nicaragua. If you see that white area in the map, that's a great big lake. That's a freshwater lake in Nicaragua. In the middle of that lake is a volcano that sticks up. In the middle of that volcano is another lake. It's a lake in a lake. So there's a lake in the volcano in the center part, and then Omnatepe is the name of that volcano. And they grow Omnatepe tobacco on that volcano, and they have to take it all off by boat when they harvest it. And when you see Nicaraguan blends, and you see, oh, we got a leaf from Jalapa, we got a leaf from Omnatepe, we got a leaf from this, now you know what makes it kind of kick and have spice, which will get me to my next topic, which is the cigars that we're smoking tonight, I think. Is that the next slide?
Did we already hand those out?
Oh, no, first we want to do Bryce's.
Actually, before we move on, when we're talking about these lists, it's a part of the hobby. That's the cool thing about it is
Anybody want a cigar?
when they do these lists, it's a big deal for a lot of people in the hobby because all the great minds come together and they start rating these cigars. It's exceptionally exciting for me because it lets me know how on point I am for my buying. So the fact that we have 15 of the 25 in there, that means I'm doing the right things. At least I feel like I'm doing the right things and getting the right cigars in here. But it's a cycle for the hobby, right? Because around the end of the year, we start getting pumped up for these reviews to see if the cigar I've been boasting all year as a regular smoker all year is going to make the cut. And it's pretty nice when you're smoking that cigar all around and you're telling your buddies it's so good and they're like, it's okay. And then that list comes out and it's like 2 or 3 and you're like, I was right. So, so it's a cycle of, the reviews come out and he's right. Somewhere around April it starts to fade away, but the next part of the hobby is what becomes fun because in July, that's when they start releasing all the new arrivals and we start the conversation again. What's going to make the reviews again at the end of every year. So it's just this cycle, And like I said, there's nothing more fun than having that cigar you've been smoking all year. Like the Adrian Nicaraguan that I boasted about all year, and then it gets #1, and all the people that were saying it was garbage are like, oh, it's a fantastic cigar. And you're like, yeah, no.
That's it. Act like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, act like you loved it all along. So
works for me.
On that same topic, I was, as we were passing the books around, I got kind of excited because I saw that the cigar that I'm smoking, the one that I really like, it's the Diesel Whiskey Row Sherry Cask,
right?
Was number 5 on Vixen's list and was number 25 on the Cigar Snob list.
You know what's funny about that one is I got those in this year, and never had it until that list came out, and then I was like, wow, this is actually pretty phenomenal. I really like it, It's a good one.
It's readily available. It's affordable. And look at that. You're not the only one that likes it. Isn't that kind of reassuring?
When these lists come out, you know, look at them all. Take a look at them. Eventually, you'll find the one that most meets your desired cigars, right? You'll have some that you're like, I've got a few where every time I look at their list, I go, geez, what are these guys on? I don't know what the heck they're reviewing. And then there's some, I personally love Cigar Journal. Cigar Journal, they are very, I think they're the least biased of everybody. They kind of swallow their pride on a few of the ones that make the list and they go, you know what? This is a good one. So I enjoy that. I'm able to cling to certain lists that I like. But more than anything, you know, these lists are there just to help you guys. At the end of every year, you know, sometimes people are a little bit timid when they walk into a cigar shop. So I put these binders out there because sometimes people come in and they don't want to talk to us and they don't want to know. So they flip through these and they find one, and sure enough, most of the time it does the job for them. So, but I will tell you this: we have Bob's Corner every month, but it doesn't just close off there. Okay. His cigar corner is open year round. If you go into the shop, he will give you the same exact treatment there that he's doing right here. So just remember that. It doesn't have to stop here either. So did you want to go ahead and flow into that one right
there? And okay. I did want to mention the cigar that I just passed around the room. I got to thank Matt for Matt's the
Matt Sass.
Matt Sass is the my father rep, and the cigar when Bryce is done with showing us about the pipe aspect, we're going to learn how to pack a pipe properly or improperly, or 3 different ways, and at least how to get it started. I'm going to talk about a cigar review of not one cigar, but an entire brand. And there was a podcast or a YouTube that I saw that was called Zeus. I think it's called Zeus. So this guy, Zeus Cigar, says, you know, and I want to acknowledge him for that because he gave me the idea. You know, every My Father cigar has a spice kick to it. But even beyond that, I can't put my finger on the taste of that spice. It's kind of red pepper, kind of cayenne pepper, kind of black pepper, kind of peppery, kind of spicy. I don't know what to call it. And he's right. I don't know what to call it, but I recognize it. And what he recognized and what I wanted to share with all of you tonight is that that same spice is on every cigar that My Father makes that comes out of their factory. Now, it's not on Tatuaje, totally different blends, and their spiciness is nice, but it's not the same as a My Father spice. So when we get to it, and when you feel like lighting up that cigar, pay attention to that pepperiness, that spiciness, especially in the first 10 minutes that has a kick. And after we talk about the pipe aspect, we'll talk about the My Father cigars and the many reviews we've done on them and how they have this commonality. So that's why I passed out. That's called the
Vegas Cubanos.
Vegas Cubanos. It was an attempt by My Father to duplicate their original cigar when they started the company. So it's not a high-end, it's like a $6 cigar. It's an easily accessible cigar. It's not too strong. It doesn't taste like a Le Bijou or a high-end or Antiquidad. It has a basic taste. But I invite you to try that and try that. See if you recognize that pepperiness and how unique it is. And it's a commonality to everything My Father makes. Now, having said that, let's talk about how to pack these pesky pipes. And we've got some, if you're in the room, Pat's brought up some magnificent pipes. This pipe here, for instance, I've never seen a bowl this big. Look at that. And I've got pretty big hands, but, well, there it is compared to my head. Whoa, it's the size of my head. No, not really. But this is a magnificent and unusual cigar. And Pat says when she fills that up, she's good for the day, I guess.
Pretty much the day.
Yeah, that's a lot of tobacco.
So my Greek friend, he was beautiful.
And she's got some beautiful There's a few meerschaums in here that are collector's items that I think are magnificent. Yeah, look at that. Wow, Pat. I'd be afraid to smoke that. And she has this one, which is one of my favorites. Wow. And I think this other one is also a meerschaum.
Very classic shape.
This is the classic run-of-the-mill meerschaum, right?
Yeah, we're running with it.
Look at that. That's classic run-of-the-mill. Yeah, it's a claw. And it has that's the name of it. It's a claw meerschaum. And she has a few others that I kind of just cherry picked. She's got tons of them. And if you're in the room as we mill about later on, I'd invite you to just examine them up close. Now, I've smoked maybe 15 bowls since I started learning about pipes. And the last bowl I smoked was the best bowl because Bryce told me how to pack it. And before that, I was just thinking, this is stupid, it's a waste of time, it doesn't work right, blah, 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 blah. So I learned a little bit about how to finesse the tobacco. If you're packing a bowl of tobacco in a pipe, you're doing the same job the cigar roller's doing down in Nicaragua or Dominican. You're creating the product. You're putting the product in a format that can be enjoyed. And that can be tricky, and there can be different methods to do it. I'm going to let him tell you, because if I told you, I'd get it wrong. Go, Bryce.
Move forward. Yeah, like right there. Right there? Yeah. All right, so how many of you guys smoke a pipe? How many of you are interested in smoking a pipe? You two? Not quite, maybe? All right, cool. Let me just tell you before we start this. I smoke a pipe. I've smoked a pipe longer than I've smoked cigars, just slightly longer. It is a little bit of a tedious begin to the hobby, all right? But it's rewarding. It's rewarding in a way that when your palate starts to, I don't know if you guys smoke enough cigars where your palate just kind of gets fried at the end of the week type thing. Mine does that occasionally, where I'll smoke a really good cigar that's typically pretty good, and I'm just not getting what I want out of it. That usually means my palate's a little bit fried from all the cigars, so I switch over to a pipe. I don't need to, I just love it, right? It's a part of my hobby, right? Now, one of the biggest things that deters a lot of people when they're first starting off is packing the pipe. That's the most deterring factor for people, and the reason people hop off the hobby. So I'm going to go over a few ways. He has a few. I'll tinker around with one that I'm not real familiar with that he's put on there. But the most common way that most people do it is they actually do they call it the handshake method, right? And let me show you real quick here. But before I start, I'm going to show you guys, most people that start off with a ribbon cut. Now, I've actually brought in a cake. I started to bring in a ribbon to show you guys, but this is also a good opportunity to show you guys what cake is and not to be intimidated by it, all right? When you look at it, it looks like something out of a Clint Eastwood movie, like that right there, all right? Looks like old school chew, basically, right? Now, there's nothing, all it is pressed ribbon for the most part. It's procured in such a way that it's hot pressed, and they do that so that it can kind of bind together, and it can create kind of a whirlwind of flavor when they press it. It's kind of like a box pressed cigar, right? Everybody likes box pressed cigars because of the way that it's actually procured and the way that it actually can be. It's flavorful in that aspect. So this is all it is. I broke it off a chunk that I want to use. Now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it in my palm of my hand and just rub it out into a flake. Right? That's all it did. Now it's into basically kind of a broken flake, but close enough to a ribbon. I think you guys get the point. So there's two ways to pack a pipe. that I'm going to mainly go after. Most of you, like I said, are using that handshake method. All right. Might need a little bit more actually here. I've never used this pipe before, so bear with me. It's a little bit smaller bowl than I typically smoke out of, but I do smoke smaller bowls here and there. Now, for the pinch method, you just put some tobacco in there, right? And the way they do this is the first time that you actually put the pipe tobacco in there, you're actually going to do it like you're shaking the hand of a child. All right, so you're just going to barely just push in there, just like that. All right, and you take a little bit more, and you want to keep going about filling it up and pushing it down to about halfway. All right, get this little chunk out of there. Put a little bit more in there. All right, and then you're just going to a little bit stronger, like you're shaking the hand of a woman. Okay. Now the next one you do is shaking the hand of a man. All right, that means you're going to actually put some pressure down on it. And you're going to do it, and you're going to push down in there like that right there. Put some decent pressure. Right now, as you can probably see, I didn't go all the way to the top. I don't go all the way to the top of my bowl. I don't like scorching the top of these investments. Some of my pipes can range anywhere between $100 to $1,500. So I don't want to scorch an investment that I made because I can make that back up later on. So now that I've done that, you just want to test your draw. Perfect. Now, you're probably asking yourself, how do you know if it's a perfect draw? It's actually easier than you probably think. It's just going to be the consistent of drinking through a straw. Doesn't matter what fluid it is. Some people say a soda, some people say water. It doesn't matter. Fluid's fluid. All right, so it's going to be the consistency of drinking through a straw that has fluid behind it, not just a straight straw. If the draw is too thin, repack it. If it's too much, repack it. I can't stress enough that if it is not where you want it to be, to just start over. All right, because you're setting the tone for your whole hour. It'd be like if you got a cigar, you pulled it out, and you just didn't ever fix that one piece of the draw. You ever get a cigar and you puff on it, it's really tight draw, and you just muster through it, and at the end of the hour you go, wow, that was completely not worth my time at all. We do it all the time. We put a poker through that cigar. We do it for people all the time. It happens. They're hand rolled. It happens. But that's the equivalent. If you don't fix it early on, your hour's ruined. You don't want to do that. We do this because it's a fun, enjoyable hobby, and we want to keep it that way. Now, the second way that I want to show you, and the one that I really, really stress to new pipe smokers to do, it's called the Frank method. It is not my method. It was invented by a guy named Frank, okay? And it became really popular. I caught onto it about 10 years ago. I was using the handshake method, and I didn't think anything of it until I tried the Frank method, and I thought, okay, this way is almost infallible. All right, so I'm going to show you how it works real quick here. You want to pan down real quick here. You're just going to take this. It might take slightly longer, but it's, like I said, it's infallible. You're just going to keep doing this until all the tobacco settles at the top, so that it won't, when you tap it, it's not going anywhere. All right, so about right there. And then I'm going to take my hand at the same diameter of the hole right there, and I'm just going to, so if I look at it, I know exactly about how much I need to fill that bowl right there. As you can see, it takes slightly longer than the last method, but like I said, you want to do it right, and this is the best way to do it right the first time. So I've got it just the size of the diameter, just like that right there. It's not really spilling over. You want to take any chunks that are overlapping on the rim right there and just pull them out, because they will affect it going in. Now, whenever I push it in, I'm not pushing on the tobacco, I'm pushing against the side of the bowl to where the inside of my finger skin is actually, so see there's an extra chunk that kind of popped off. That's going to happen. That's the excess that you don't want. And you're just going to work it in. I'm not putting pressure on it, because that's what you don't want to do. And that's the fallacy of the first way I showed you, is when you're pushing it down, sometimes you're just cramming tobacco in there and you're going to get a tight draw. So if you can keep yourself from pushing the tobacco, and you notice when I started this, I was just dabbling it in there and tapping it, dabbling it and tapping. I wasn't pushing anything. And now that I put that first bit on there, all right, now I'm just working it in along the edges of the rim right there. See, there's a little bit hanging off there. Now if you look at that bowl right there, it's kind of perfect. Right there. So it works perfectly. Again, good draw. Okay? So anytime you're sitting there, you're packing your pipe, don't do it in a hurry. There's no rush. You'll see guys that have been doing it for a long time, they'll just throw their pipe down into a jar and they'll cram it in there, and that's fine. They don't really mind messing with it too much. But when you're first getting into the hobby, learn how to do it right. Because that is going to really keep you in the hobby. Because the more and more you have to battle against gargle and tongue bite and all these things that happen that are attributed to packing your pipe, the more you're not going to want to do it next time. You're going to start getting kind of an aversion to the hobby. You'll look for ways to just go to a cigar instead of a pipe every single time. So you definitely want to make sure that this part of the hobby, when you're first starting off, is the first part that you perfect. Before you start figuring out what pipe tobaccos you like, you're not going to know what you like and you don't like if you're smoking pipes wrong, because every blend you taste isn't going to taste right. So master this part right here. Before you start getting into the collecting of pipes, before you get into the collecting of tobaccos, learn the fundamentals. Then when you get into this right here, naturally you're going to start learning the right cadence to smoke a pipe. There are right cadences to smoke pipe. That we'll go into in another class when we get into cadences. But does anybody have questions about packing a pipe? Yes?
Well, not about packing. Sorry. What causes tongue bite?
A slew of things. One, you could just have a pH balance in your mouth that's different from the pH balance that you're smoking. There are certain individuals that cannot smoke aromatics. It fries their tongue every single time. I tend to fall into that a little bit here and there. I smoke a lot of really natural blends so that I don't have that bite on my tongue. You also get it from improperly packing your pipe, because whenever it's a tight draw like that, you're gonna run into, you're sitting there pulling the smoke through this condensed area, and it gets really hot. And believe it or not, it's not the ember from that's burning you; it's the steam from the moisture in the pipe itself that's actually drawing in, and you're burning your tongue through the steam. So a lot of times that's where you get the tongue bite. Any other questions? Did that answer your question, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Anything? Anybody have any questions about the procedure or anything like that? As far as like, yeah.
So, like, you're supposed to tamp it down.
What's that?
Tamp it down when you're smoking.
Yes. Uh-huh.
You do that on that?
Yes, you're always going to tamp in all of these right here. The tamp is to keep the ember moving all the way down. You never want to put too much pressure on that amber, because you put that amber out. So you just want to slightly just kind of go around. You're not pushing. You're just slightly, just let the tamper do the job. There are nicer tampers out there that have a good counterbalance weight on it that actually you don't have to do anything. With this one, you do have to put just a tad bit of pressure. But some of these nicer tampers, you just, and it does pretty much all the work for you. Oh, yes, like this one right here. See that right there? So this right here, do you mind if I pass that around? Okay. This has got kind of a little bit of weight behind it, where it's what's that? Yes, like that. Or you can actually use it either way, it's fine. But you can open it up, you can use that part right there. And it has just enough weight to where you really don't have to do anything other than, and it actually does it for you. So here, once you pass it around, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Did you guys have any other questions at all, or anything that about the hobby in general that you want to go ahead and ask me about? Oh, sorry.
So when you I know it's a little off subject from packing, but when you're actually lighting, you tamper right after that, correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, you do what you have to do to light your pipe. I mean, you'll have people tell you, well, after 3 times you should be lit. Could take you 5. There's nobody's watching you and calculating how you're lighting your pipe. If it takes you a little bit longer because you're learning and you want to make sure you're getting the complete bowl, do it. I mean, like I said, slow down when you first start off. Slow down when you're packing your pipe. Slow down when you're lighting it. Be conscious of what you're doing. Learn from bad and good decisions you make whenever you're doing this, because you're gonna end up smoking a pipe wrong. Think back to what you did wrong. Man, I over tamped my pipe that time. I know I did, because I could feel myself doing it, and I could feel the draw starting to tighten up. Or hey, that pipe was perfect. What did I do right? I didn't overpack it. I slowed down. I did everything I was supposed to do, and that pipe was the most enjoyable pipe I've had since I've started smoking a pipe. And you just start mimicking that. But I can't stress enough to go slow if you can, because this hobby is not an easy one to pick up. It takes a learner's curve, and but I promise you, if you slow down and you take your time, it pays back in dividends. It's a good one. What's going on?
So how do you tamp without putting it out?
So the ember is actually going to be just slightly underneath that first layer of the ash. So as long as you're not putting pressure directly on it and just on the ash itself will kind of collapse a little bit as you're going. So the ash will put a little bit of pressure on the ember, but the ember portion that we're and I say ember because I'm from the south, amber, is actually the part at the bottom that's actually igniting the tobacco underneath it. So as long as you're not pushing it to where the bottom of it is hitting that wet tobacco and putting itself out, you'll be fine. But like I said, don't put a ton of pressure. You're not going to put it out. Matter of fact, after you tamp and you take a puff, you're going to notice that it's actually igniting the new tobacco right underneath it. Any other questions? It doesn't have to be about packing a pipe. So if you have any questions at all about it, just spill the beans. All right, cool. It looks like I knocked out everything.
Wow. And like I said, I've been taking lessons from Bryce on how to get this thing started. And before I even paid any attention to it, I thought, what's the big deal? You just stick the tobacco in there and you light it and it's all over. And it's really been practice, and it's an interesting transition. And like I said earlier, I've had like 15 bowls, and the best bowl I had was the last one, and the ones prior to that were kind of problematical.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to mention, because this is a new hobby for me, pipe smoking and cigar smoking are not mutually exclusive. Bryce is a big, huge pipe aficionado and really enjoys a cigar or her talking cigars, learning more about them. Pat, who's in the room, who contributed these magnificent pipes, I see her all the time. One day she's got a cigar in her hand and she knows the good ones, and one day she's got a pipe in her hand and she knows what she's doing. And on top of that, as a third example, this just happened yesterday, Monday. I had a customer come in to the cigar shop, and he was looking at pipes. And he was saying, let me look at this one, and let me look at that one, and this one, and that one. They were all kinds of different pipes. But I couldn't figure out what he was trying to trend towards. It wasn't price, it wasn't shape, it wasn't any of those things, whether it was shiny or dull. He was looking at the size of the bowl. He was looking at the size of the bowl that would match his 60 ring gauge cigars. He was looking at the size of the bowl because after we shopped for like 15 minutes and I couldn't figure out what he wanted, he says, well, what I do is when my cigars get down to the nub and they're really good, I smoke the 60s, I stuff them in my pipe and I finish them off. Who knew? So yeah, there's anything and everything you can do with a good pipe. And he was looking at the $100 pipes.
Yeah.
He wasn't looking at the $15 ones.
Yeah.
So there you go. It, like I said a million times now, it's just a fun new hobby. It's very interesting to me. There's a lot of things that cross tobacco-wise. I love casing and I love aromatics because it's new to me in a pipe. But in the cigar world, it's kind of like the world of acids and Javas. And us cigar snobs, you know us. Although I do love me some Fat Bottom Betty. Oh man, that's a good cigar. And one of my favorite new cigars is the Rough Rider, which is a sweetened tip cigar. For some reason, that sugarcane sweetness opens up the second grade tobacco in it and just makes it a party. So there's always something fun and new. With pipes, it's almost like mentally I'm giving myself permission to go down things like plum pudding and cherry and all these different aromatics. Nutty Irishman's one of my favorites. Stay away from the rum and maple, please, because we're out of it. But beyond that, rum and maple.
Rep's right here, actually.
I had a bowl of rum and maple in the nut house at home, and for a week it smelled like an IHOP. It was just, I wanted pancakes every day. That's all there was to it. But it's a fun new hobby. Pipe tobacco is just, it's not even, your wallet's not even going to know you went and bought any. It's like $5 an ounce. You get multiple bowls out of an ounce. You can mix and match. You're your own roller. In that when you pack the cigar, you're doing the job of the roller. I packed the pipe, you're doing the job of the roller in the cigar world. So, it's a fun new thing. We'd be really dumb not to take advantage of Bryce's extreme knowledge in this and wanting to share it. So,
Do you guys have any requests for next month's classes at all?
In
As
the
far
world
as
of
anything
pipes?
you're curious of or anything like that? Or we can just go into, what's that?
The pipes.
Yes.
I can't wait to learn how to smoke.
You want to learn how to smoke, finally? Get around to that? Yeah, we can get into that. I was really kind of hoping for next time we would go over different lighting techniques. One class I would really like to teach you guys about the different sizes of the different pipes that are made, why they are made, the different size bowls, different techniques and how they put stems on these different pipes and why they do certain things. Just kind of a brief overview of the actual briar and meerschaum and corncob pipes and the slew of others that you'll find. So one of these days we'll go over that so that you can figure out why you're so attracted to that billiard pipe or that Canadian pipe. Like myself, I smoke a ton of Canadian pipes. So when you see me smoking, you'll see me smoking usually about a 7-inch Canadian. So
hey,
that's me.
hey.
So
Top 3 pipe tobacco if you're selling the store.
what's that?
Top 3 pipe tobacco if you're selling the store.
That's completely up to the eye of the beholder, right there, isn't it?
What are we out of?
Yeah,
rum and maple.
Rum and maple.
We ran through it all.
You know, that's kind of a subcategory question. You know, you're going to have somebody that smokes, like Steve. He only smokes Virginias.
Steve likes good.
Pat smokes a lot of Englishes, right? Yeah. I smoke a lot of Virginias. He smokes a lot of aromatics. So that's gonna, yeah. I would advise you, aromatic-wise, to try the Nutty Irishman.
I got it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Do you dabble in anything outside of aromatics yet?
I like black Cavendishes. I bought the cherry one. Black.
So you still like pretty primarily aromatics?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we could talk all day about that. Yeah, there's so many out there. I've got another one that should be back in stock here soon that everybody fell in love with, which was Colt Blood Red Moon, which was really popular. If you like Fat Bottom Betty, it's really close. It's really close to it. I mean, it's got that. You know, they say that the Fat Bottom Betty is not infused and it's not aromatic, but I totally disagree. They do.
It does have its sweetened tip, so that brings out a lot. And I understand it's got a lot of Kia leaf in the filler.
Doesn't explain the that's
The
like
chocolate Hershey bar?
yeah that doesn't explain. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
If you haven't had it, you got to try it.
Yeah.
Just say it.
All right, cool. So we'll work something up together for the next pipe class, and then he's gonna finish up with those with the cigar review. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's your dirty plate.
That's yours. You
Why don't you clean your plate? So, at Bryce's suggestion, which is great. By the way, this is adding so much diversity and various hot points to hit. I'm really glad that Bryce is able to contribute and expand Uncle Bob's Cigar Corner to more than just what I know about things. And another great idea that Bryce said is I do a lot of cigar reviews. And you can see my picture on all the cigars in the store, and people look at me and go, "Is that you?" I said, "Yeah, I reviewed that." And then they grab it and buy it and ask me about it. I'm all about that. I love it. It's more fun than getting paid, I got to tell you. So Bryce suggested that I go ahead and bring up a recent review of a cigar and share the notes and things and the experience I got out of it. And that's kind of nice, but that just talks about one cigar. And as I was saying earlier, this Zeus guy on YouTube started talking about the special spice taste of the My Father cigars. So I've reviewed La Antiquidad, I've reviewed the Connecticut, I've reviewed Don Pepin Blue, I've reviewed the Jaime Garcia, I reviewed the Judge, La Promesa, the Gran Oferto, the Flor de los Antilles Maduro. Oh, that's better than the regular Flor de los Antilles, which actually got Cigar of the Year. And one of my favorites, Le Bijou, and my favorite, the La Opulencia. So, what I decided to do was smoke all those cigars, more and more and more. So I kind of grabbed a few of them, and this guy was right. There's a kind of a spice that's in the My Father cigar that's unique to My Father cigars. And I would invite you, this Vegas Cabanas that we're smoking now, I would invite you, especially in the first 10 minutes, because when they roll these cigars, My Father does, we've been in the factory and seen it, the tip is where all of the spicy, concentrated essence of the cigar, the strength of the cigars. They'll break that tip off and bring it down and face the tip up, down. So they'll kind of compound the strength of the cigar on the tip. And what you get when you first light it up is a pepper bomb. And then it fades down a little bit. And I've had a lot of Perdomo pepper bombs. It's a different pepper taste. It's a more distinct, like a black-white pepper. I've had tons of other Nicaraguan cigars. A.J. Fernandez is famous for his spiciness, but his spiciness is more of a spicy rather than a pepper note. It's more of a spicy vegetable spiciness, like you get in a green pepper or a bell pepper or a I'm thinking peppers that you get from New Mexico. I used to live there, but they're all great. So My Father is different than A.J. Fernandez. It's different than Perdomo. If you've ever had a high-end Padron, like a 1926, pepper bombs, whole different pepper taste. So there's this pepper commonality to the strength of all that volcanic soil in Nicaragua. But only My Father has that initial kick that's distinct to the My Father Garcia brand cigars. So I brought that, or Matt brought it in tonight to go ahead and share with us all. I'd invite you to all try it, but beyond that, I'd invite you, after having tasted that and thought about it a little bit, to try a Perdomo, try a Padron, try an A.J. Fernandez, and see if you don't expand, by accident maybe, but it helps you expand your palate to pick up these different kinds of spiciness. Up till now, till I realized this, I just went, that's a pepper bomb. Oh, that's a pepper bomb. And I thought they were all the same. They're not. They're different and unique. So, I just wanted to sum up with that. And with that, I think we got, we're running long well enough. Does Scott have any last comments on the phone there from Tucson? I want to thank again Jason and Bryce and the Thunderbird, and remind everybody again, please subscribe, because I'm having a ball doing this. And God bless Jason for keeping me tech savvy, or making it look like I am, because I'm not. And we're going to come back next month and do it again and have some more fun. So with that, I think you can go ahead and bumper music me out. If you know, is that no, we're not going to bumper. No bumper music. But with that, we'll say good night for tonight, and everybody, hurp and enjoy a cigar. Thank you. I'm going to light this thing up now that I can.